wrap up. So I read 12 books this month. One was a novella, another one was a reread of a book I already read this month, and then I also sampled a few books too, just like reading like the first few chapters to see if I would like them. Like I said in my April wrap up, technically the first book I read in May was Steele by Lyndsay Faye, but that book is just too good. I'm gonna talk about it again now that I just loved it so much. The next book I read was The Crown by Kiera. So, if you don't know, I love the Selection series. I've been following it basically since it came out. It's what brought me into book blogging and what brought me to booktube. So waiting for this book was so weird, just such a weird experience. It's the final Real for Reals book in this series. I read it as an ebook at midnight the day it came out, May 3rd, aka the day of 1,000 YA releases. Okay, there were like 30, but still. I did a review of this, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and then I went to Barnes & Noble the next day to get my physical copy. But it was a nice conclusion to all of the characters that we've known. Like with any book, there's parts that you're like a little disappointed about or wanted more resolution, but overall, I'm pretty content with this. Next, I read The Heir by Kiera. So I had meant to finish The Heir before I started The Crown, but I only got like 100 pages in before The Crown was released. I've read this book I think 3 times now. So like the first time I read it was like on my ebook at like a Mexican restaurant in Cinco de Mayo last year, and we were waiting for our service and we all had like 3 margaritas each. Yeah, so I'm like trying to read this, and Taylor Swift's tour was coming out, so I have a lot of wonderful memories with this book. Very nice to revisit this even after The Crown, and I saw some connections between the two. Next, I read the ebook The Mirror and the Maze by Renée, Ahdieh, the 3rd novella from the Wrath and the Dawn series. Is she calling it a series? The Wrath and the Dawn duology? Yeah, it fits right between The Wrath and the Dawn and The Rose and the Dagger, which I hope to get to soon, but The Wrath and the Dawn was my favorite books I've read so far this year, so getting a nice another scene from that world was good before heading into The Rose and the Dagger. It was short, but it's free also on most like ebook online retailers. The only one that you have to pay for is The Moth and the Flame, because that one's longer and totally worth it. Next, I read The Art of the Disney Princesses with an Introduction by Glen, Keane. I picked this up on the whim. It's like a junior nonfiction book, and it just has a lot of beautiful art, and I don't know if you can see any of this at all with like the white balance. It just was really nice, like just to kind of sit down, listen to like a music album I've been meaning to listen to for a while, chill out, puts on some like mood lighting, and just like read through and like look at how people had different reasonings for how they reimagined and reinterpret the princesses. It also has a beautiful introduction from Glen Keane on the first page about like the eyes are the most important expressive part of a drawing. We should pay for art and we should appreciate art, but I don't know if this is one of the coffee table books I need to own. The next book I read was Princess Gambit by C.S. Pacat. Yes, this is the 2nd book in the Captive Prince trilogy. I'm really glad I continued on because the first book I enjoyed, but I gave it like a 3 out of 5 stars, and this book I liked a lot more. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It had a lot more delving into the world. So if you didn't like Captive Prince, you might like Princess Gambit a little bit more, and I really feel like they should be one big bind-up, that way you can read the full story through rather than separate books, but alas. Also this month I sampled a lot of books using the Publisher's Lunch Buzz Books e-galley. I don't know, I got it off of NetGalley so you can get it for free, but it has 20 anticipated reads for the spring and summer, and most of these have already come out, and I've actually read one of them so far. I read Rebel of the Sands by Elwyn Hamilton, which is featured. I had a lot of like weird downtime at work where I didn't want to get so sucked into like a full book and then have to put it down, but it was the perfect amount of time to read like a chapter or two. This is definitely a collection I'll be looking forward to because it's giving me a good plan of what I want to read. So it just was nice not to read a full book, but to still be reading. Next, I read Princesses Behaving Badly by Linda Rodriguez McRobbie. Linda Rodriguez McRobbie. I picked this up on a whim at my library. Also, it was in like a historical like display. Like we have like different displays for different like Colorado history and Mother's Day and Downton Abbey's ending, so here's a lot of other read-alikes and watch-alikes to that. So this was just like in a weird history section, and I really liked it. There was like about 50 or so different princesses highlighted in this, people who pretended to be princesses, warrior princesses, scheming, usurping, murdering princesses, and it made me really think about how history is a male's story, and how much is like omitted from what you're taught in history. So this gave me like a really good overview of different parts and sections of the world. The one thing I wish it had was a family tree for all of this royal families it talked about, because I'm like, okay, so that's Leopold II of Belgium, and was that the one that was the uncle of Queen Victoria of England? Like it hurt my mind a little bit, and I had to research a couple things, but I know that would have made the book a lot longer, but it just was like a nice real quick read. Then I read King's Rising by C.S. Pacat. And then I finished the Captive Prince trilogy this month too, and I liked this one the best, 5 out of 5 stars. It's a very good conclusion. There's really good lines. I actually had to like look up a couple of words. I think I had to look up like anywhere from like 5 to 10 words of like things I don't know, because when you're younger you learn so many new words every day. When you're older you get kind of more familiar and comfortable with what you know, but I always want to learn new words. So it's nice to be having to like look up things in like my dictionaries and sometimes even online if it weren't in these, because oh gosh, this thing is so worn. Oh my gosh. It's stained blue. Why is it stained blue? Definitely a story I hadn't quite read before. It had like allusions and elements of other things, but it was tied together in something very new, and I was very impressed with the conclusion. Did not really like the first one as much, but the last one I liked a lot. Like a lot. Then I read Life and Death by Stephenie Meyer. And look what I finally read! Oh my god, if you guys don't know, I was like the hardest Twilight girl, Twilight fangirl, Twilighter ever. You know. I could show you all of the random merchandise I've had over the years, the blankets, the keychains, the stickers, the pins. I had t-shirts, I had a tote bag. Like, I have a lion and a lamb stuffed animal, and I bought this New Moon t-shirt at Build-A-Bear because of this series. Like, who am I? I haven't read any of the Twilight books in like 5 years completely. I think I reread Midnight Sun either in like December or October, like sometime last year, and I kind of like dabbled around in Eclipse and Twilight just to like relive a few scenes, but I hadn't read the full thing. So reading Life and Death, where so much was similar but so much was different, was really a good, refreshing experience. I think I've just been longing for this world, and this was the first thing of it I picked up, so that's why it's so fresh. And Stephenie explains in like a foreword like that some of the changes were because Beau's a boy, some were because she didn't like the wording, some were because she wanted to have different conversations happening, and the things that were slightly different were like really good. I found myself attracted to both Edith and Beau because of their character traits, which proves that it's the character traits and not just the people that make the people, you know. I could see that if like you were a die-hard Twihard, where you could either love it like I did or like absolutely hate it, and I can't really explain how you'll feel about it because I loved it so much, so I don't really know what to recommend. And I really want to buy this one day, but I'm okay not having it right now. But it's not the same height. It's taller, so I don't want it next to these. Does that make any sense? Am I insane? I'm insane. That's probably why. Then I read A Gathering of Shadows by V. Schwab. Now that we have the cover for A Conjuring of Light, the 3rd book in the Darker Shade of Magic series, I'm like, okay, it's about time that I read A Gathering of Shadows. This is the first book event I went to after becoming a booktuber for Laura Stas Rascon V. Schwab, Chasing Danger. I like this a lot better than A Darker Shade of Magic. I just didn't like the action sequences in A Darker Shade of Magic. Those are my like least favorite to read. I don't see the battle and the fighting and the physical combat. I can't imagine that as well in my head as other scenes. This one had some battle scenes and fight scenes and physicality with the magic, but it was like told in a much better way. So without giving too much away, you get to explore all the characters you met in A Darker Shade of Magic a little bit deeper and a little more expanded than you did before. There's also a couple of new characters and new elements, but I think they're all very vital and interesting to progressing the story, and I cannot wait to figure out what A Conjuring of Light's gonna do because it left a bit to tie up. And the final book I read in May was The Hamilton by Lin-Manuel, Miranda, and Jeremy McCarter. I didn't do color guard for nothing. The last book I read in May is The Hamilton, the Revolution. This book is structured chaptered and then lyrics, so it kind of goes into either the character or the actor, actress, or the development of the Hamilton, the musical, and then it has one of the song lyrics in chronological order with annotations about like what different lines meant or where the inspiration came from. So it just was a wonderful must read for anybody who loves Hamilton. I didn't think I would love Hamilton, and now here I am, and I'm singing it day and night, and I can't stop. It's just insane. So it just was like really nice to listen to chronologically because I've listened to pretty much Act 1 like 2 or 3 times, but I've always like kind of been scattered around Act 2, so I've never listened to it in order. So now I was like listening to it while reading this, and it just was a really good experience. It was this page with pictures from the Winter's Ball choreography of this dance and swooping around, and it's contemporary dance but in historical clothing. That's like, I need to see Hamilton live. Like, you get to hear the entire experience with the soundtrack because there's very few scenes and dialogue, but to actually visually see all the things that can't be portrayed through sound, like this just blew me away, gonna blow us all away. So I'd say I had a pretty good reading month. I read a wide variety of things. I finished series, I was in the middle of series, I read a lot of nonfiction. It just was like a really well-rounded reading month, so I'm really happy with that. My name's Laura, this has been Bookies and Cookies. I love each and every one of you, and I hope you never forget it. Like this video if you enjoyed it and you're watching it to the end, cause thank you, you're awesome. Subscribe to see more content from me, and remember, I will never be satisfied. Thanks guys. It's published by Quirk Books, who published Miss Peregrine's Home from Peculiar. I can totally speak. Was that when I dropped blue dye in microbiology? No, I didn't have a dictionary. We used a different dictionary, I think. And that was a different year. I have no idea why it's dyed blue, probably from a pen or something. Age, that's weird. Next I read, oh, shit. I dented a box. We're fine.